How's it going, everyone? This is Jeff from Lewis Physical Therapy. I want to talk about today recovery periods for sprinting or highly intense plyometric activity. So, for majority of athletes, there should be some type of plyometric sprinting presence in their program year-round. Certainly, the volume and intensity of it is going to be dependent on the type of cycle or block that they are in, but there should be some element of that year-round. Again, I'm not a huge fan of traditional block periodization for team sport athletes because they need to be able to demonstrate a wide variety of skills. I know some critics will say, well, if you're training concurrent variables, then you're not going to get the adaptation you want for one versus the other. And I think to a degree there is some thought to that, but for maybe more reserved for really higher level elite Olympic athletes. But for the most part, I think that there needs to be some type of presence of multiple different qualities, sprinting, plyometrics, max strength work throughout the course of a season and a year. And that's where really I'll dive a lot more to like the vertical integration, periodization for a lot of guys. I just seem to think that that is a bit more applicable for majority of team sport athletes because you have some type of higher intensity work throughout the year, but it's really the volume that changes more than anything. So you still get frequent exposure. But bringing us back to recovery periods, probably one of the biggest mistakes that I see from a conditioning standpoint, we'll talk about sprinting, top speed work in this case, is not allowing proper recovery. So perfect example of what we don't want is, let's say an athlete has a 30-yard acceleration, or they're doing some type of fly-in work. The last thing that we want to do is have them go do a rep and then take 15, 30 seconds before their next rep. Quality is going to be the single most important factor over quantity in general. It does us no good if we do 5 reps of something, but 4 or even 5 of them for that matter are not good quality. So this is why we really want to make sure that there are sufficient rest and recovery periods between each reps, primarily to let the predominant energy system use to recover, but also let the nervous system recover as well. So in a case like this, for say a 30-yard acceleration, I might be taking 2 minutes, and if it's a high intensity movement, I might be taking 2 minutes in between each set to allow the athlete to recover. Again, I am not doing this from a conditioning perspective of trying to get guys to really just feel like they're in a super fatigued state, they're keeled over and whatnot. That type of conditioning, to be honest with you, I feel is outdated, doesn't really have the time and place for traditional strength and conditioning for team sport athletes. And the same goes for high intense plyometric activity. Plyometrics, we'll just take depth jumps for example. Highly taxing on the nervous system when done right. And these are intensive, not extensive plyometrics, and we're not going to dive into that today. But long story short, extensive is more submax, repeated plyometrics. Intensive plyometrics are much more lower volume but higher intensity jumps and are going to be a lot more taxing on the nervous system. So let's just say that we'll just take a split squat jump, a weighted split squat jump for 3 to 4 reps each side. And again, we're really trying to focus on getting maximum height on a lot of these, or a squat jump, for example. Again, if you could really pick any exercise, it's really just the intensity that you're prescribing for from there. Say I'm doing some of these squat jumps. Again, I do a set of 4 each side. I am not just taking 15 to 30 seconds and going right into the next one. Is there a time and place for getting some type of reactive power work capacity work? Yes, but I would argue that you're probably going to start going into the fatigue state a little bit too much with that, and that's why I'm just not really a fan of going into that. So that's just some good information for you to take from a recovery period standpoint as you're going through your conditioning. Again, when you are sprinting, doing any type of high-speed work, do not rush your recovery. Your nervous system and the energy system that you're working has to recover to make sure you're getting good quality reps.